And we're looking at another story that we have kind of touched on a bit this morning, but we're going a little deeper into it. Peter Obi is fighting back, and Bayo Onanuga has a decision to make in less than 72 hours, or consequences will follow. Now, Peter Obi, the Labour Party's presidential candidate, has threatened to sue Bayo Onanuga, a spokesperson for President Bola Tinubu, for defamation. Now, Obi is demanding a public apology and 5 billion naira in damages over allegations that his supporters were planning mayhem in Nigeria, linking him to anarchy. Now, Obi has denied Onanuga's claim, and his legal team has given Onanuga an ultimatum to retract the statement within 72 hours or face legal actions. And I think that Onanuga has responded saying that he's not afraid of any legal action, and even typically saying, "See you in court." I think we have the tweets, if we can quickly take that. All right, so this is his response. "I'm still waiting for the letter from Peter Obi's lawyer threatening a 5 billion naira suit and demanding an apology to Peter Obi over the planned revolution. Let me just tell Obi and his lawyers, I am not afraid of any legal action. We shall meet in court." And that's a statement from Bayo Onanuga on the platform X. Anyways, joining us now is legal practitioner and public affairs analyst Chukwuma Ezediaro. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Blessing. Good morning, Osaro. Glad to be here.
Good to have you. All right, probably would just start with asking you, your thoughts, and if you agree with Bayo Onanuga, is Peter Obi and his supporters, are they, to be blamed for whatever protest happens on the 1st of August, if there will be a protest? Does Bayo Onanuga have a strong point that he's made with his allegations?
Okay, thank you very much, Osaro. Now, Mr. Onanuga's statement was incredibly reckless. He didn't provide a shred of evidence in support of his claims. And I'm astonished that despite the letter from Mr. Obi's lawyers that he insists on doubling down on his position and hoping to meet in court. Now, the truth is, we do not know who the organizers of next week's protests are. And just like the NSAS protest of 2020, this appears to be a coordinated movement without any known leadership. Now, how Mr. Onanuga arrived at the conclusion that the coordinators of this protest are supporters of only Mr. Obi remains to be understood. Now, one thing must be made clear. Yes, Mr. Obi did not win the election. He wasn't declared the winner by INEC or by the Presidential Election Tribunal and affirmed by the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. But I think it's incredulous to state without any single shred of evidence that it's only his supporters who are going through a tough time, or it's his supporters who are planning to wreak havoc because he's still dissatisfied with the result. What is rather clear is that from his tweets since the elections were declared and since the court decisions were given, he has continued to advocate for one Nigeria. He's continued to contribute his piece towards national development. Now, we must also remember he wasn't the only candidate that lost. Now, Mr. Onanuga also stated in his tweet that it was the same supporters of Mr. Obi who hijacked the NSAS protest. Yet again, no single shred of evidence. Now, it's truly incredible that we're here where a senior public official makes statements, no evidence, and appears determined to just points us towards the culture of impunity that has continued to hold Nigeria enthralled over the past 2, 3, 4 decades. But it's a good step since Mr. Onanuga is determined to go to court and he says he's not afraid of a legal action. In court, he will then have to present the evidence or the facts upon which he based his conclusion and upon which he arrived at the same conclusion.
Okay, but earlier we had George Ashiru from African Democratic Congress, and he was saying that Peter Obi kind of took it a little too personal, looking at how politics is done in this part of the world. Like, it should probably have been an avenue to maybe sell himself, and prefer solutions, which Osaoge did clearly say that he's been doing that for years. But do you think, in your own opinion, that Obi took it a little too personal?
No, he did not, because we must remember these are not the sort of statements you wave aside lightly. Now, there have been comments from certain schools of thought or certain quarters that next week protests will be bloody, will be violent, will be troublesome. And then you attribute that to a single source, which is Mr. Peter Obi. Now, he's worked hard over the decades to build up the reputation he has. Now, if he allows comments like this to slide, let's not forget he has people he's working with. He has business partners, local and foreign. This is a matter you cannot allow to slide by merely because some people perceive this is how politics is done in Nigeria. A man who has worked hard to earn a reputation is entitled to ensure that he defends and retains that reputation to the best of his ability and according to the best of the circumstances. So I respectfully do not agree with Mr. Ashiru that he should have ignored it. No, because Mr. Onanuga is fond of making interesting and incredible statements which have no backing, no material backing. He never provides any shred of evidence, and we simply cannot afford to let this kind of behavior go unchecked. So yes, he was ready to go to court. I want to see him in court.
Yeah, but let's just also clarify something. I mean, if they go to court, because nobody's sure if they will or not. You're a legal practitioner, so help us clarify. If you look at the statements made by Bayo Onanuga, it says here that the malcontents planning to stage a nationwide protest are supporters of Peter Obi, and of course Peter Obi should be held responsible. He also says the protest planners are also the same people who instigated IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu to launch the destructive NSAS protest. That's a different thing entirely. But is he completely wrong when he says that the people that are staging the protest are supporters of Peter Obi? Because you've said that, it's not possible that it's just the Labour Party supporters or Obi supporters that are disgruntled and angry and willing to protest. But is he completely wrong by simply saying that Peter Obi supporters are going to be part of the protest, or at least organizing the protest?
Okay, so
even if they're not the only ones.
So here's how it works in the courts, right? So when a statement is said to be defamatory, the check that is done is called the ordinary man's test. Now, what would an ordinary reasonable man who's not connected to the event or to the party think when he reads the statement? What impression or conclusion would he arrive at? Now, Mr. Onanuga, so I'm not exactly happy with the way this current administration has governed the nation over the past 13, 14 months. Does that necessarily mean I want to go and protest? No. I continue to try to get on with life and try to make the best of the circumstances that I find my country and myself thrown into. Now, there is nowhere Mr. Obi has said he wants to protest. At least I've not seen it. I don't think it's publicly available. Now, this is a man who wasn't satisfied with the declaration by INEC about the presidential elections last year. He didn't go on a protest then. When the Presidential Election Tribunal gave his decision, he still did not proceed on a protest. When the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court delivered their verdicts, he still did not go on an appeal. And since then, he hasn't gone on a protest. So why now? And let's be honest, Mr. Peter Obi has worked hard in his private life as a businessman that really and truly he can afford to keep quiet, manage his business, and the blessings that life has bestowed upon him. He doesn't need a protest. He doesn't even need to be in Nigeria. He can simply relocate like another presidential aspirant who comes in and out from time to time. But he's truly concerned about Nigeria. He's not a candidate who pops up only during elections, and after the elections, he disappears only to pop up again when the next electoral cycle begins. So really and truly, he stands nothing to gain on TV, in the newspapers, and he postulates or offers suggestions or theories that could get us out of the quagmire we find ourselves in. So I think it's a bit of a stretch. And let's not also forget, there are people we have seen on social media who say that even though they voted for this current administration, they're a bit disappointed with the way things have turned out. Yeah. Now, what remains to be seen is that in the absence of an investigation, again, I state very candidly that I'm unable to understand how Mr. Onanuga arrived at this position, that it is only supporters of Mr. Obi. Is he suggesting that all the supporters of the APC are happy with what is going on in the country? We are inundated with comments from the North where they say that things have never been this bad.
Yeah, Mr. Ezediaro, we're out of time. I would like that you quickly just respond to this as quickly as possible. There's a narrative, that I also have seen that, people have said, that it seems like the policy is when all fails, blame the Igbos. When all fails, find a reason to draw in, the Igbo, people into, into the conversation. Because Omoyele Sowore, has been promoting the idea of a protest amongst many other people. But it seems to be Peter Obi's name that was mentioned, even when he has never mentioned anything about a protest. How do you respond to that? And do you think that, that is something that we've seen prior to the elections and even till now?
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, very quickly, yes, the Igbos have been cannon fodder for theories like this, where if anything goes wrong, it's easy, just blame the Igbos as the ones responsible. And I'm glad that you mentioned Omoyele Sowore. He's campaigned and advocated for the protest. Clearly, he's not from the Southeast. Nobody is seeming to remember that. Mr. Onanuga somehow omitted or did not remember that Mr. Sowore is someone who is advocating for a protest. And yes, we saw things like this before the election, during the campaign period, and sadly, even during the election day, on the election day itself. It's really sad because it's really one Nigeria at the end of the day. The ordinary man on the street is not really interested in where you're from or what you believe in. He's just interested in, can we get along together? Can we do business together? Can we live peaceably together? So it's a big shame that people like Mr. Onanuga are intent and hell-bent on promoting ethnic divisions. And I pray people like that are quickly called to order and checked so that Nigeria doesn't break up into separate and distinct entities.
All right. Thank you very much for your time this morning, Mr. Ezediaro. Truly interesting perspectives. Looking forward to speaking with you again.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.